Welcome to Business as a Magical Practice, where your business is the vehicle for your self-integration and soul evolution. My name is Sam Garcia, and I'm the founder of Dirty Alchemy Digital Marketing. And I'll be guiding you through how you can use your business as a spiritual practice and what magical businesses are doing to hit their goals and change the world. Together, we'll be relating the mystical to the world of business so that our work can unite spirit and matter, shadow and light, conscious and unconscious. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Business as a Magical Practice. I am here with a special guest today, and we're talking about having emotionally mature relationships in business and a few other gradients of that and flavors of that. If you don't know Michelle Wellington is an emotional growth coach and dating and relationship expert. She's the CEO of Women Can Heal, a community of women who are answering the call to reclaim their inner peace, commit to their happiness, and release the conditioned patterns to keep them stuck in painful feelings in love and relationships. Her method of recovery, embodied womanhood, helps women to live their purpose with emotionally mature consciousness. So she's also the host of the Women's Wake Up Club, a podcast that brings emotional growth work into our love lives. And we're not talking love lives here. I mean, maybe we might fall into that a little bit, but we're going to mainly talk about emotional maturity in business today. And it's just there's so much there. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Sam. It's an honor to be a guest on your podcast.
Oh, we're so glad you're here. So, I mean, let's just jump in with what emotional maturity even is.
Great question. So yeah, I feel like it's like a hot topic that's been kind of building over the last couple of years. And just in terms of this phrase in particular, emotional growth work has been around for a while, but specifically what I've been seeing lately is just emotional maturity. There are a lot of different definitions out there, on the most basic level, it's growing up emotionally, right? Your emotional development. So, without getting too deep into science and psychology and stuff like that, development is just growing from something small or underdeveloped to developed, right? But then in the world of emotions, as we think, as we are as kids, as infants, we need to be taught what emotions are. How do they feel? How do I express them? How do I know I'm feeling them, right? These are things that we are hopefully taught in our childhood and our formative years. And unfortunately, traumatic events and, neglect experiences we have when we're growing up can stunt our growth, can stunt our development towards healthy emotional expression and healthy processing and alchemizing of negative emotions. So emotional maturity on the most basic level is the expression of your emotions in a healthy, adult, embodied way that isn't harmful to yourself or harmful to others. Now, in some of my other offerings, we go really deep into the definition. And if we were here for several hours, I would just go all over the place. But on the most basic level, it's really about being able to have the skills and tools to express your emotions, know your emotions, and do it in a healthy way that doesn't harm yourself or others.
I love this so much. And I definitely grew up in an emotional desert. I don't know what we'll call it, but my mom definitely didn't teach us anything about emotions. And I remember when I was probably 10 years old, I grew up in the 90s, and there was that fad at whatever point where there was peace and love on your shirts and all over the place. And I remember connecting to those as words and not actual feelings. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I actually was oh, this is an actual feeling. And it being almost shocking to me. And I have a good friend who's a Waldorf teacher, and her whole path is along teaching children. And she talked about oh yeah, one of the key things we do is teach children to identify their emotions. And I'm well, that's cool.
And this reminds me, I was, in I was about to say my former life, but I was an elementary school teacher for 15 years.
Oh,
So like I like, and also coming from a, a childhood where, you know, I didn't get the tools that I needed
yeah.
to grow my own emotional maturity. So being a teacher, working with little 6-year-olds, and then like as my job, being able to teach them about emotions, like it was extremely difficult for me. So it's great that it's happening in the schools. And
Yeah.
it is so important that it also happens in the home. Like just
Yeah.
school like isn't enough. So I really feel you on that one. I truly do.
So, how does emotional immaturity and emotional maturity show up in business?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I can
Like
probably
maybe just like we did emotional maturity. Let's go at like what does emotional immaturity look like just in general?
yeah. So emotional maturity, immaturity is basically like not like it, my mind is going to all different ways that I could describe it, but I want to make it like really concrete. So basically, it's an inability to express, process your emotions in an adult way. So you're literally, if you think about it like a kid,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
kids, they tantrum, they don't
Yeah.
know how to express themselves, they don't know what they're feeling, and they're not supposed to. They're supposed to learn that. But
Yeah.
the way I like to think about emotional maturity is like I'm like an adult woman in a 40-year-old woman's body, but I
Yeah.
have the emotions of, say, a 11-year-old or a
Mhm.
7-year-old. So
Yeah.
I'm literally tantruming. So one very simple example is, you know, I wanted to do something and with my partner and he's not available for it.
Mhm.
How do I react to it? I really want something. And so I can react in a mature way, recognizing, oh, like something's changed. And like that's like just a normal part of life. And how can I adapt? How can I express to him, oh, hey, like I'm feeling disappointed that we're not able to do this thing. And then take care of myself, self-soothe,
Yeah.
pick up self-care, or in an immature way where I make him the source of my difficult emotions. I blame.
Yeah.
I have a tantrum. How could you do this to me? This isn't fair. Like, I mean, I'm exaggerating right now, but you know, the subtleties of the tantruming or the blaming or the, you know, silent treatment,
Yeah.
punishing, you know, retaliation. So these are all immature expressions. And this can
Mhm.
happen in love relationships. This can happen in familial relationships, friendship. It can also happen in business. You can show up immaturely in your own business. So,
Mhm.
on the most basic level, I like to say immaturity is, you know, rooted in, you know, being underdeveloped, some kind of trauma. You didn't get the tools to express, to know how you feel, to act in an adult, mature way. And so, when I was giving you those examples of just like, how could you do this, you know, guilting, blaming, that's harmful to the other person. So remember, I was saying
Mhm.
that emotional maturity is like we are able to express and process our emotions in a way that isn't harmful to us or others. Like that kind of blaming, projecting, putting our negative emotions on other people is harmful. So
Mhm.
immaturity can be harmful to yourself and others. You know, you're literally acting out in the world from a consciousness, from an emotional maturity template that is younger than what you actually are. So hopefully that's
Mhm.
clear.
Yeah, and is this always in negative circumstances, or does it also show up in positive circumstances?
Emotional immaturity.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
that's
is it always like, oh, I pitched a client and they said no, and then I have a tantrum, or is it also like I got a big client and now I'm freaking out?
hmm. You know, I would say this is a great question. I've never thought about it like that. In my world, like the immaturity is like a protection mechanism. It's a
Mhm.
self-protection mechanism and a way of being that is familiar and comfortable because at some point, like it worked. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like that kind
Yeah.
of behavior worked. Um,
Mhm.
and what we do in the growth work is we recognize, oh, like that behavior served us for a moment
Mhm.
in time, but now we can see that like it's not working, it's unmanageable, and like bring in different ways of being, more mature ways of being, evolving. And so in terms of like positive things that happen, I would categorize that more in like the phrase that's coming out is like kind of like blowing out on the good. It's like that to me would be more like, oh, how do you expand your capacity to like hold high sensation? If you're not able to, I would put that in the category of like, oh, you just kind of like weren't able to hold this high sensation. I wouldn't necessarily call it immaturity. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love thinking
that. So in our relationships with clients, how can we show up in an emotionally mature way?
Oh, so I think the first thing is recognizing our own power to get our needs met at any given moment when we are in business. So the root of immaturity is trying to get your needs met in a way that like doesn't work, in a way that's harmful to self or other. So in business, we have a lot of different needs, a need for, feeling a sense of purpose, a need for significance, a need for expressing our gifts, a need for financial security. I could just like keep going on and on and on, these like basic needs that we as humans like want to get met so we can feel safe, right? And so in working, and being in business, the first step is recognizing, okay, I'm an adult and I am empowered to get my needs met or ask for help in getting my needs met. So I always like to say that, like, we're not just these like, hyper independent people who could just get all of our needs, that we need people to help us. Or we need like, spirituality or whatever. We need help. We can't really do it alone. So step one is really just like recognizing that like, okay, like I am like, sovereign, I can get my needs met, and like recognizing what your own deepest needs are. And so in business, oftentimes we feel like, the client is going to like meet our needs. We can put too much on specific things in our business. Like, oh, if I make this much money in this launch, then I'll be safe. Or I get this many clients and then I'll be safe. So step one is really recognizing that like, okay, like I can get my needs met, like I am safe. And, separating kind of like the hooks that can happen between like what we imagine will like make us feel safe and get our needs met and like what actually has us feel safe. That makes sense. So like I can think of so many examples where I've been on, sales calls and like I've put so much into them saying yes, so much. Okay, if they say yes, I'll feel safe and I'll have this money and like I'll be validated. And then they're like, I need to think about it. And I just like crumble, So really like maturity is like step one is like recognizing that like my sense of safety and my power is not wrapped up in the specific results I get in my business.
This sounds so tied into resilience of this giving you so much resilience because you know that you can, no matter what happens, you can take care of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Resilience. And like, when we think about business, it's like, there's no like formula. Like, I mean, there's lots of formulas that are sold, but like in my world, I'm like, oh, there isn't really a formula,
No.
And yeah, that resilience, like I do a launch, like it went well. I do another launch. It didn't go well. I'm like, whatever well means, according to my own, determination of that. But yeah, the resilience of being able to like rest on just like the truth that like, no matter what happens, like I have the capacity to create that safety, to be empowered, like regardless of that like external outcome. So it really starts from within.
This is so interesting because it feels very parallel with this concept of coming from sufficiency in a lot of business, because we're when there is like a financial need involved with running our business, if we're the breadwinner in our family, if we like need this to go well to pay rent, there can be a lot of fear attached to like, this money actually is a big deal to me. But if we lean back into the energy of sufficiency, and the usual practice around this is like, I mean, I have water coming out of the sink. Like most of the world doesn't have that. I have food in my fridge right now. I have X amount of dollars in my bank account, or I have a loving partner, or I have a dog that I love, or like I have a roof over my head. And coming back to like the sheer basics of getting our needs met, I'm alive. My heart is pumping. Like, but it's curious because it feels so connected to what you're talking about with emotional maturity, but where that's more like a thought process. This is like on an emotional level. So I'm curious, like, what are the nuances between those two things?
Yeah. So for me, it's like the emotional maturity is a thought process. I also call it like a consciousness, that's like rooted in the deepest part of ourselves. So I do see that link, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like to me, like the maturity is like, yeah, the thoughts and the behavior that is expressed in like these deep emotional things, right? So like my sense of safety, my sense of, worthiness, a word that's been coming up a lot for me in my growth work, particularly around business, is significance,
Ooh.
Yeah, like this like deep need for significance that feels a bit damaged. And I haven't landed on this word before, but like it's the way it's showing up is in, triggers that will happen. Like if I go on social media, I'll be scrolling and I'll see somebody is like, doing something, and then like I feel terrible about myself. And then the expression of that is, oh, what, like start judging them. Oh, like whatever, that's a stupid offer. Or, or it can go in the opposite direction where I'm just like, well, why haven't I moved forward in my stuff? So that like, do you see how it's like the deep rooted emotional stuff, like is connected to the expression of like how I am in the world and my thinking, and then how I behave. Like, oh, I'm going to unfollow them. I don't want to see them. That's the behavior. Or the thinking is like, oh, like I'm not doing enough. I'm not significant like them. And then like getting smaller. So like, that's kind of how I see the link.
Well, something you said right before we hit record was the act of expressing our deepest gifts and the emotional wounding that can come up. And this feels connected to that. Am I right?
Yeah, totally. Super connected.
So how does expressing your deepest gifts trigger emotional wounding?
Oof, yeah. Where do I begin? So yeah, expressing your deepest gifts is so vulnerable. It's like I've been through a lot of different like business programs and like things like that. And we always start within, who are you and what is it that you want to share with the world? Like what's your gifts? What, like it's so vulnerable, right? But we always start there, right? And I think with regards to wounding and gifts, and I can speak to my own experience, that when you come from an upbringing that had like trauma or neglect, if you had caregivers that, silenced you, or had some messaging that was like, you're being too much, or like you need to be this way. When we're kids, like we need to get several things met, core needs met, right, in order to develop emotionally in a healthy way. And one of them is like a need to know it's okay to be vulnerable. And like vulnerability, I mean like, like express yourself, make mistakes and have it be okay, and like if you don't, like I didn't actually receive that growing up. And so coming out of hiding, so like I had to go into hiding, like my true self, or another word for it is, like my gifts, my essence, like had to go into hiding because I was in an environment where like it wasn't actually safe to express that. So now, 35-year-old Michelle wants to like is getting a calling, like, oh, I want to express myself. And like this old wounding is coming up, like from childhood, it was like, no, like, don't be silly, quiet, like be smaller,
Yeah.
And so that can come up in the first step of like wanting to tap into like, oh, like, who am I? What are my gifts? And like, is it safe to express it? Am I going to receive some kind of negative feedback? Am I going to get hurt? And by hurt can be like, rejected, laughed at, humiliated, ignored, So that's how I see like kind of early on when like we're wanting to do business and tap into like, okay, like who am I and what are my gifts? And the old wounding that can come up if we didn't have an environment that like encouraged our self-expression and encouraged us to be vulnerable and, and be out there. So yeah. And then I had another thought about identity. So I think that's a big piece of this. I kept saying who I am, and I realized that they're kind of separate, like recognizing like who you are. And I don't mean like kind of like absolutely, like I think we're always figuring out like who we are moment to moment, but like just like a general sense of like, oh, like I feel secure in like where I come from, where I am now, and where I want to go. I have a clear sense of what my values are. Like my boundaries are intact. I feel comfortable expressing myself. I feel safe expressing myself. And so I think all of that is wrapped up in identity. And that can bring up a lot of wounding when we're going into business as well. You'd be like, okay, well, like, okay, business lady, like, who are you? And it's like, I don't know, like, some kind of trauma or wounding where like you weren't able to formulate an identity for yourself, and like codependency comes in where like, we have identified who we are only in relationship to other people,
Yeah.
And so now with business and expressing yourself and knowing who you are, you don't have those tools. And so it can bring up that old wounding. And this is where, we can look at other people and like be like, oh, I'm just going to be like them in business. Or I'm just going to like copy them, or like this formula works. Let me just copy this formula. And like, it's not authentic.
Yeah.
So those are some of the different ways I see that coming out.
Well, I see successful business owners going two different routes with this, where kind of like what you're saying of like, I'm putting on a mask, like so natural for women, right? To put on a mask and people please and be nice and all the things. So I'm going to choose this identity that I'm going to step into for business. And that will take them really far because they're just like choosing to act in a separate way. And there's a lot of safety in that. And there's a great book called Alter Ego that share like one of the like how to create an alter ego to like resource power from this alter ego. And a lot of pro athletes do it, and a lot of celebrity chefs do it, where because when you have this like really big public persona and people start bashing you and they hate you, like it's fine because they're bashing the public persona instead of like the true you. And I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant. And then on the other side, you see spiritual business owners who are using business as a means to get to know themselves deeper and better. And they're trying to like reveal themselves more and love themselves more, and reveal themselves more and love themselves more. And that is incredibly magnetic when you can like, because people just want to be around that so much. And I don't see either way as wrong. Like this one way over here where you're creating an alter ego, there just needs to be awareness around it of like, I'm also getting to know myself in my free time, like in private versus like I'm becoming this person who's not me.
Right. Exactly. No, thank you for alerting me to that book. I'm super interested in that. And you said it exactly. I was thinking the word that came to mind was like consciousness, and you said awareness, so it's like, I know what I'm doing with this alter ego, but it's when it's unconscious, like I'm putting on this mask, and where I think when it's also rooted in own fear, it's rooted in fear, it's rooted in wounding, not enoughness, and fears, that's the arena where I think, business owners can run into trouble. And then this other way you were describing, I was like, oh, that's me. Reveal,
Yeah.
love more, reveal, love more. I loved that. I really felt it when you said that, because that is, to me, it's magnetic. It's vulnerable. It's vulnerable. And you have to really, like, if you didn't get that need met in childhood, you've got to almost like reparent yourself to have it be okay to express yourself. And like, if it didn't go that well and you're feeling those feelings, to have the tools to know, I'm going to keep doing this. Like, this is the path that I've chosen. So
along this lines, it popped in my head, so I'm going to bring it up. I have a client right now who has a very successful consulting business, like has gotten to 600,000 in annual revenue in like year 1 or 2. It's like just friggin' blew up. But her like true heart path is in a like teaching this very specific spiritual thing. And she is in the process of like getting this business off the ground and into the world. And so much more, there's a lot more tenderness there for her and fear in there. And I see this time and again of like people who like made a lot of money in corporate situations or made a lot of money in like a very standard business. And then they're like, but I really want to do this over here. But like, this is actually like what my soul's calling me to do. And that's where they start shutting down. And it seems like a part of, I'm sure there's a lot of layers, but a part of it is, before I was masking, before I was doing what was like publicly accepted to be successful. And now I'm going to show you the real me. And if I fail here, if you reject me here, you're rejecting the real me instead of like this thing I don't actually care that much about.
Oh yeah. And that's so tender and what I can relate to deeply. I think the first couple of years of my business were a lot more kind of following formulas and masking. And the last, I would say, year and a half, I had like a total deconstruction where I was just like stopped posting and just like really went inward. And now I'm coming out where it's like, this is the real me. Even changing my handle on Instagram, I was going by Women Can Heal, which in a way felt like a kind of like the storefront was in the front, like the brand was in the front. And I just recently changed my name to Michelle_Wellington, because I'm like, that's my name. And it was like a whole journey, it was very vulnerable. But yeah, like the tenderness of, what if I put myself out there? And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, people are going to see Michelle Wellington, not know that handle, and unfollow. I'm going to lose all these followers, That's where my mind went, because it is so vulnerable. And yet I think you mentioned this, but like you could see people get to that point of like, oh, it's like, I really want to express my true self. And like the fear can overwhelm them, and they're like, jump back to what's comfortable. Right. But if you can stay there, get the resources to resource yourself in like that path, it is so rewarding. It's so rewarding. But yeah, that transition from like masking and formulas that work to, okay, it's me, you're taking off kind of layers of protection in a way. For a while it was just like, women can heal. I was behind it. And now like I write in front, and like, look, all these emotions are coming out, all these meanings. But the practices that you can do for yourself, there's a myriad of like practices that like emotionally resource you, get you back into your body, calm the nervous system, so you can go out and like be yourself and follow your purpose. Like that's what I'm doing today. There's no like, okay, now I figured that out, and like, now I can be vulnerable. It's like, it just keeps cycling through. You have these moments where you're like, okay, I'm out. I did it. It's great. And then like moments where you kind of contract and go back in. And yeah, it's a beautiful and rewarding process.
So I'm wondering if you can give everyone who's listening here some like very small tangible things that they can take away, like maybe like one like maintenance level of like, try this one thing every day to like kind of keep emotionally healthy. And then there's a flare up, here's like the little acute prescription that you can do when you like start getting into freak out mode.
Okay, great. This like aligns perfectly with like this aligns perfectly with like this distinction I'm making between like practices that help you kind of maintain and then like things you can do in the moment when it flares up. So one practice I do daily, an emotional growth practice, is, I mean, this is not anything new, but like sitting in stillness every day and connecting with yourself. So I'm sorry, it's not anything brand new, but like it is one of the most effective practices I have to sit in stillness and, you know, drop away like the distractions to quiet my mind and really connect with that true vulnerable self of mine, resource senses of safety and power within myself. Like, and I do that every morning. I start my morning in stillness and meditation, you know, and tapping into myself with no distractions. It can be guided. It can be just like, I put my timer on and just like, okay, 10 minutes of quiet connecting with myself. And then I'll add a little bonus practice, which is like, do not pick up your phone for a while in the morning or get on Instagram. No distractions, just like deeply connect with yourself. So that's a practice that I like to do. I think we wake up and we can have so many like thoughts and like go so fast. If you could just like slow down and connect with yourself, that's the best thing you can do for not only, you know, tapping into your true self and, you know, encouraging yourself to know, like, okay, the expression of my gifts today are going to be, you know, a blessing to people, like all this like positive, you know, no distractions. But then also the second thing I was going to say just left my mind. It's gone. So I guess I'll just do.
Maybe it'll come back. Maybe
it'll come back. Yeah. So yeah, that moment of just like waking up, connecting with the self, no distractions, phone to the side, you know, just slowing down in the morning, connecting with yourself. And then in the moment, which is so great that you're asking this, because I had a flare up this morning, you know, I have an offering that is like in creation, wanting to come out, and it's been in creation for a long time, and I've been working with a lot of the negative thinking that's like, Michelle, this needs to come out faster, like move faster, look what all these other people are doing, like, you know. And then I got an email from someone who I follow, who I respect and love their offerings, and they've just like launched the same offer, like a similar offer than what I want to offer. And I was just like, I got like so triggered, I didn't even realize what it was. And I've been doing a lot of work on like kind of nervous system and connection to like acute triggers. And so what you can do if like you notice something flare up, like fears, self-judgment, insecurity, any of like, we all have our own unique wounding in business, you know, like, you know, fear of failure, or, you know, it's not safe to express myself. So one thing you can do is focus on like calming like the nervous system first. So most people think like, oh, I have a trigger, I need to like start working up here with my thoughts. And like, I'm really like about like body-based first. Like you can't start working on here and shifting some of the thinking and shifting some of the behavior until like your body feels safe. So like in a flare up, one of my absolute favorite tools to calm the nervous system is EFT tapping. And it's really, really simple emotional freedom technique. Like you don't need to do much. Like you're literally tapping on different parts of your body and breathing. Sometimes you can say powerful affirmations or just acknowledge how you feel. Like, even though like I saw this email and I feel really insecure and judging myself, you know, I love and accept myself, like how I feel, like affirming how I feel is right, you know. So that gets you back into the body, that calms your nervous system, that lowers cortisol. And so then if there's any other practices you want to do to shift your thinking, to start seeing yourself more in a positive light, recognizing the abundance you have. We were talking about this earlier in the call, just like, look at all the things I have, look what I'm doing well, then you can do that. But like first step would be, you know, some kind of like tapping, EFT, my number one tool, breathing, getting back into the body and calming that nervous system. So.
I love that. That's so good. Well, what that's making me think of is just from affirming how you're feeling is right, is like,
Mm.
that's another like thing that as an adult I've learned that you're supposed to teach to children.
Yes.
Versus like,
Wow.
but what you like 90% of the time see, and what I've done when like as a kid babysitting is like, when a child is crying, like, oh, everything's okay, like, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's
Mhm.
okay, when really like that's
Yeah.
damaging. That is emotionally damaging versus like
Yeah.
affirming whatever you're feeling is so, or like empathizing. So
Yeah, it is like super. Yeah, I think it's like the it's okay, it's okay, it's okay that, a parent can do is
mhm.
actually like they're trying to tell themselves it's okay because
Mhm,
there's like
yeah.
this comfort there. Like we do that
Mhm.
as adults too, like somebody's feeling an emotion and we're like, it's going to be okay because we
Yeah.
feel uncomfortable being with that emotion.
Well, and we think it's soothing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But affirming, being like, oh, wow, I really feel that. Like, that sucks. Like, I'm here with you.
Mhm.
Like nothing has to change. You don't have to change how you're feeling right now. It's okay. And that's how you can talk to yourself too. So,
Yeah.
like, in addition to like, if something's flaring up, like the worst thing you can do is like judge your own feelings and
Yeah.
just be like, hey, we can't, like, those feelings need to go away. Like, we don't have time for those. Like, we need to like keep trucking on.
Envy is bad. I can't believe
Yeah.
you're feeling that way.
Yes, I love that you brought up envy. That's my number one. That's my number one. But like the emotional growth work with regards to envy in business has been like so
Mm.
powerful for me, because the more I get into that emotion and being like, they have something I want, like there's pure desire underneath there. There's
Yeah.
genuine appreciation for what I'm seeing and just a longing to express myself in a way that I'm seeing it expressed. Like, if that phrase, like, if you spot it, you got it. You know what I mean? I've had like such an amazing transformation around really accepting and alchemizing like envy and other quote negative emotions I feel in business, comparing and things like that. When you get under the surface of it, there's something like beautiful. There's like a gift there. And if you could tap into that, the whole thing just kind of unravels. So yeah, envy's a big one for me.
Oh, yeah, I love hearing, I forget who I first heard this from, but the idea that like when you, it is connected with envy, it's like anything that you desire was actually put in you, and you have
Yes.
the capacity to get it. And it's hard when we're in this like echo chamber of like, I see of Instagram or wherever you are, of like, I see this person has what I want, and this person, everyone has what I want, and I don't have what I want. And but
Yeah.
really, like, think about like 90% or more of the population who is not a female entrepreneur on Instagram. It's like
Yep.
they don't
Yep.
want any of these things.
I know. I know. Yes.
And like, so it's like, it's not that like, oh, I want the same as everyone and everyone can't have it. It's like, no, like you alone, or like you and this like select group of people want this thing, and you're working towards this thing together. You just may see a lot of them around you because you're surrounded by them.
Mm. That is such a soothing balm for me in the context of like the trigger I had this morning. Just really
Yeah.
letting that in. It's so beautiful.
What's your human design?
Oh, I kind of know, I kind of don't.
Well, do you know,
Is that,
like, are
is
you a
that bad?
projector? No, it's not bad.
Oh yeah. I am a generator.
You're a generator.
I
Okay.
do know that. I
I've
do
met
know
I've met a few projectors who like totally channel other, like they're on like the same wavelength of a few different people, and like they're putting out like similar programs at the same time. And I just think they're like, it could just be an intuitive channel thing of like us tapping
Yes.
into like one little wavelength. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you already know that people
Yeah.
needed it, Michelle's version of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really learning that. I'm really learning that, particularly in the last year, that the greatest service I can provide myself and others is to be myself, to be who I
Yeah.
am and be nobody else.
Yeah.
And this expressed itself in, just like recognizing that, like, oh, I really like performing, Like when I was like a
Yeah.
kid, I like loved performing, and like, how does that want to express itself in my business? Ooh, there's this thing called Instagram Reels where I
Yeah.
can just like perform and
Yeah.
teach and be of service. And like, it's going really well because I'm being myself,
Yeah.
and sometimes Reels are viral and they're awesome. And sometimes nobody sees them. The algorithm's like, you know, but that's
Yeah.
okay because I'm just being myself. And so, yeah, that is
You got into reels before I saw like most people get into reels.
yeah, I don't know why.
Everyone who's listening, go watch Michelle's reels because she has like hundreds of them. And they're
You
great.
have a lot. They're so fun. I love playing in there. It's so fun because I just get to be myself. I get to be funny. Sometimes I get to be serious, but like, yeah, it's like really about, going back to like the gifts that want to be expressed, like doing the work to allow yourself to be vulnerable, to let the gifts express themselves. And when you're really like, I can tell when like I put something out there that's like really truly me, that people are just like, wow, more of that. And then like if I happen to post something and I'm just kind of like, it's like coming out a little crinkly, or there's a little bit of like, are they gonna like it? Then not so much. So like the best thing is just like, continuing to do that like emotional growth work to like be like, okay, like I have this wounding, it doesn't define me. I am empowered to keep like working, growing, healing this stuff. And then like as a business owner being like, oh, it's safe to be me. It's safe to like put it out there, and it's just like this cycle, like you were saying, like express, love myself, express, love myself. And yeah, I really feel like that's like such a beautiful way to kind of reframe how I've been doing things in my own business.
So I'm wondering if the concept of exposure therapy is a terrible thing in your opinion in regards to emotional maturity, just because I've had a lot of positive things come out of like just doing the thing over and over again that's uncomfortable, and like that just wearing down the discomfort. And you see my little dog. I'm wondering where like how, and as the more and more I get familiarized with trauma and trained in like trauma work, I get less and less comfortable telling people like just do it and get like not get over it, but like you just kind of have to do it to like work through it.
Yeah.
Because it's something that's helped me a lot. And I'm wondering from the emotional maturity or emotional growth perspective.
What are my thoughts?
I don't know what my question is, but you understand.
Yeah, I have the question. I have the question for sure. And it's a great one. And one that like I'm still like landing on a solid answer for myself. Like if I'm going to be completely honest, because I have gone through periods of my growth, not only personal growth, but like business growth, where like it was like exposure therapy vibes. Like we're just going to like throw you into the pool and like just deal, and that I think at times worked for me, and like other times like were really harmful for me. And I think that the difference is like the level of like connection I had to myself, the level of consciousness I had, and my level of safety I had. So when I had coaches being like, just like do the thing, there were times where like I was actually resourced, like, okay, like, yeah, I'm going to do the thing. Like I'm feeling scared, but I also know that like growth is at the edge of my comfort zone. Okay, I'm going to do this. And I did it. And like, wow, like it actually turned out well, or wow, like it was really scary and like it didn't quite go, but like I'm so proud that I did it. And then other instances where like I wasn't conscious and I was like, well, I better do this. Like I'm terrified, but like I hadn't resourced myself, and like I ended up feeling more wounded and harmed on the other end of it. So like I really think the difference there in terms of like exposure therapy is like it can work if you are like resourced, if you are conscious, and you feel supported. A lot of times like coming out of isolation has been a big part of my like growth work in business, like feeling like I'm on this island, I have to do it myself, everybody's the enemy. And like, here comes my exposure therapy. Like, I better just do this thing, and I'm doing it alone. And like, I'm just like, that was awful. But coming out of isolation, like talking with people about business, like enrolling in programs with other business owners, like talking about what's happening for us, like being like, hey, I'm about to do this thing, what do you think? Like staying connected to myself, but like, what are your thoughts? What do you see? Like bringing people in and having that like supportive community, I feel like can also be really supportive when you're like wanting to get to the, other side of your edge and move forward. So it's kind of like a yes and both and.
Well, like it sounds like a self-awareness thing and a learn how to soothe first.
Yeah. Make sure that you are soothed, that like you're connected to yourself in your body, not in your sort of fear-driven impulses. Like it's really about connecting with self first, for sure.
Yeah. Well, like, and I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I love being in masterminds. I love being in group programs because left to my own devices, I can like spiral. And unless I like use tools that I have, but like, it's really easy to spiral too.
Yeah.
So being able to be in groups has been really major for me, of being like, well, I just did this thing and they said no, and or like I just raised my prices and it was really scary, and just having the response from people who understand it has been really, really huge to do hard things.
Yeah, you just made me think about how not only can like communities like that be like really encouraging, like, yeah, go girl, but then if you have like people who like know you and are just like, oh, are you doing that thing out of fear because you think you should, or is it actually what you authentically want to do? So friends or community that will challenge you on the other end, not just keep like rooting for you to keep going, but like, oh, like what's true for you? Like, is that in alignment with you? And I'm so grateful for the people I have in my life who are willing to ask me those deep questions. So I can be like, well, like actually, no, that's not in alignment. This is what I'd rather do instead, to help with the clarity, because left to my own devices.
So I'm curious, just because you work mainly in the realms of love and relationships. So I'm just curious, what do you find happen with entrepreneurs? Like, what are their biggest hangups when it comes to creating beautiful relationships in love?
Oh, wow. Again, from my own, like, so it's interesting in my business, I haven't worked with any like entrepreneurs. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, like, I feel like I'm like definitely ready to call that in, but like, it's mainly just like women who are like in relationship and like wanting to grow their emotional maturity, or like not in a relationship and wanting to grow maturity so they can find one, right? But like this is a new question, so let me think.
Well, let me try, and I could be completely wrong, but like I'm just gonna like try and like, a lot of female entrepreneurs who are doing well in business, or they're in the beginning of their business, they can tend towards their masculine side, and they often are this hyper individual. So that gives some like flavors.
Yeah, for sure. And like, for people who can't see, I just like pointed to myself because like that was me for a while, and like still something I struggle with, like they're like, so again, if we're coming back to like kind of the wounding and how it can express itself in business, like one expression of like wounding or trauma is like hyper independence, like self-sufficiency, and the self-sufficiency was like rampant in my business. Just like, it's me, I've got to do this, like no one can help me, not even like spiritual like support. I'm like, no, it's me now. And I've had a huge shift around that. But like the self-sufficiency that can happen in business can also translate to relationships. So if you're in your business and you're just like, I've got to do it myself, no one can help me, like you're closed off, like energetically, you're also closing off other things coming into your life. So again, more wounding. So self-sufficiency can be one way it expresses itself. Control can be another way it expresses itself, right? Like I've got to do it, and that can really have a negative impact on like how you let love into your life, how you build healthy partnership, control. And, I'm currently in a partnership. We'll be celebrating 6 years in July. And like the ways that like the work I've done on softening in my business, letting in help, compassion I have for myself as a business owner has positively translated into how I show up in my romantic partnership as well. Being able to soften towards him, be compassionate towards him, allow him to help me, allow myself to be of service to him. So like, I think the more you grow your emotional maturity in business, grow yourself emotionally, do that like, okay, I'm being visible, loving myself, practice. It only has positive effect on your love life. And like, I'm just going to say relationships in general, I don't know who said this, but it's like, like how you do one thing is kind of how you do everything. And so like in business, if you're like clamped down in fear, don't want to let anybody in, scarce, like that's going to just be how you are in the world. But if you can like open, see how you're being of service, soften, let go of control, love and accept yourself, like that's only going to have a positive effect on your romantic relationship. So that's kind of how I see, and that's been my personal journey. Like the more I've gotten in tune with myself and my business and how I want my gifts to be expressed, like my relationship has gotten better too, I think the last thing I want to say about this is like, I've gone through periods where there was like a bit of like a dark night of the soul with business. Like, what am I doing here? What's my purpose? And like, that can also have a negative impact on like, relationships. Like when I get into those spaces and I'm feeling bad about myself, I'm just like all there. I'm not present for what else is there in life. I'm not present for my partner. And so moving out of those spaces, like giving myself the time to like go down into the basement and see what's there for me, but then coming back out and being like, okay, like here I am, and being present again. I've seen like that also happen like with entrepreneurs like myself, that like, dips in the business can really have an impact on like the relationship. And so learning how to be connected in those spots. So like when my partner knows I've kind of like dipped in the business, or I'm getting a little dark around it, I just tell him like, hey, like I'm kind of in a dark spot in the business right now. I don't want to like shut you out. I want to be honest and open, but like, here's where I'm at and here's how you can support me there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what my practice is, kind of connecting like the entrepreneur stuff with love life stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that is so parallel, just the example you just gave, because whenever I'm in a weird mental space around my business, and he's so in tune, like, so like we're both self-employed, we spend a lot of time together, but he'll feel it. And I like, I've learned that I have to tell him that, like, because he'll immediately go and like, are you mad at me? Is something wrong? Like, am I you're not, no. Like, so like I have to really keep him in the loop with things that are happening around my emotions, just because I am a very emotional person and I feel things a lot. And so just keeping him in tune of like, I'm feeling this way because of this thing. And like, no, I don't need you to fix it. Like, I'm processing it in this way. Like, here's how you can support me. Like, it's really helpful, and it's just not been an intuitive thing for me.
Me neither. And that's the beauty of like this work, you get to keep growing until you take your last breath. Like it doesn't end. And that's just the beauty. Like it wasn't intuitive for me either. Like I'm literally feel like just learning this stuff. So yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. This has been such a lovely conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
Where can people find you all over the internet? How can they go deeper with you?
Yeah. So the place that I like to party the most is on Instagram. So you can find me at Michelle_Wellington. And I spell my first name with one L. So Michelle_Wellington on Instagram. There I teach a lot. I do fun reels, and it's just, I like partying there. It's so much fun. And then if you are interested in kind of starting more of this emotional growth work, tapping into identifying emotions, I have a free guidebook that you can get. If you go to the link on my bio on Instagram, it's called the Empowered Emotions Guidebook. So I go into 5 difficult emotions that we can experience in love life. And the guide says love life, but it's any human being and any part of life. So 5 difficult emotions and how they can really disempower us and what we can do to use them to empower us, to tap into that safety and personal power. So you can go check that out. That's free on my website. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, that would
And do you work more with people in partnership or single, or does it matter?
Oh, great question. So that's evolving. So I'm just like evolving to like working with humans that I can be of service to. I know like many like business coaches would be like, what's your niche? I'm like, I don't really have one right now. And it's working for me just in terms of like, and maybe I can get more specific, but like working with people who know they struggle a bit with emotions, don't have this like intuitive piece that we were talking about around communication and feeling. If you are there and want support moving towards maturity, whether that's expressed in business or love life or just your own life purpose, I can definitely support you in that as well. So hopefully that's a little bit more specific. I don't want to be like,
I wasn't shaming you. I wasn't shaming you. I feel like emotional growth is a fairly good niche.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, I do private mentoring and we'll have some group stuff coming up soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Do you have any like last words of wisdom for people listening?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that just came through is just really like, it's okay to be yourself. You know, it's really okay to be yourself in business, in your love life, across the board. But yeah, just recognizing that like you're not alone in this stuff. Sometimes business can be really isolating, and what we see on social media and on the internet is not real life. So just the reminder that like it's okay to be yourself, to come out, and that we're all in this together.
Awesome. Okay, bye guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.